Good evening. I'm Adam, host of Saturday Night Sports, and I'd like to welcome you to the first installment of my new show, Flashback. I am the very definition of the old school gamer. I was playing Pac-Man and River Raid on the Atari 2600 before I was even in kindergarten. That passion for gaming has stayed with me to today. I have as much admiration for old games as I do for current ones. I can go from playing the latest Call of Duty to Sonic the Hedgehog on Game Gear at a moment's notice. However, I got to thinking, there are numerous franchises that seem like they've been around forever. Of course, recent installments can easily be enjoyed, but what about the old ones? Do those beginnings still hold up? That's what this series is about, going back to the very first installment of long-running franchises and seeing if they're still worth loading up today. To kick off this project, I'm going to a franchise I've enjoyed since its inception. Tonight, I'm looking at one of the most popular fighting game franchises, Tekken. I was first introduced to Tekken in a Memphis arcade in 1995. I wasn't that experienced with fighting games at that time, just the occasional round of Street Fighter II and Mortal Kombat 2 with friends. However, when I first started Tekken, I took to it immediately. Unlike other fighters which saw pros spamming fireballs for easy victories, this one required getting in people's faces. Instead of having to memorize a bunch of goofy commands, Tekken's one button per limb control scheme made figuring out combos a breeze. Even the characters had striking looks to offset the relatively basic polygon models, from Paul Phoenix's mile-high flat top to King's Jaguar mask. I played every main entry in the Tekken series and a couple of the odd ones. I can consider myself an expert in the series. While I may not have memorized the 10 strings or Nina's linking grapples, I can grab almost any character in Tekken Tag Tournament 2 at random and be competitive. I can hold my own in online matches and even won a local Tekken 6 tournament years ago. With all that history with the franchise, I was keen to go back and see if I can still enjoy the one that started it all. At first I got the excited giggles from seeing the old character models from mainstays like Martial Law and the robot Jack. Was Jack's head supposed to be as big as his torso? Why is Law's face so puckered up? Did he swallow lemon during training? Okay, the character visuals look goofy now, but that can be forgiven. The original Tekken was a PlayStation launch title, and 3D fighters were still in their infancy at that point. The only real competitors it had at the time were Virtua Fighter and Battle Arena Toshinden. No, I don't count crap like Fight for Life on the Jaguar as a competitor. Anyway, while the character graphics may look rough now, the backdrops and musical scores are still striking. In fact, I think it's cool that the game gives a choice for music. You can listen to the original score from the arcade or a console remix, and both sound great. While the aesthetics are largely forgivable, the gameplay really isn't. I almost forgot how many great moves Nina and Paul had in later installments that weren't in the original. I found Paul to be almost unplayable with his severely truncated moveset. The only characters I found that were still intact enough to win with were King and Yoshimitsu. King's Frankensteiner, which combines a hard-hitting dropkick with a leg throw, even if the kick is blocked, became a key to victory. Likewise with Yoshimitsu's reverse cartwheel shark attack. However, the limited moves weren't the only problem. The timing window for combos is much slower. While the visual speed of the various moves doesn't look that different from the sequels, the timing for follow-up blows feels off by whole seconds. It becomes very difficult to capitalize on opportunities that open up. One of the biggest contradictions is that the game banks on juggle combos, yet the timing restrictions make juggle combos nearly impossible. There are other elements that got phased out later, like the moon jumps. To be fair, super high jumps were in Virtua Fighter as well, and they sucked there too. There is no practical reason for the moon jumps. No attacks really work 3 stories up. Did Namco think they were making X-Men vs. Street Fighter? Finally, the content is unbelievably limited. There is only the arcade mode and the versus mode. Tekken became one of the first fighting franchises to stuff the console ports with tons of modes and extras, from team battle and survival modes to an actual bowling game. However, the only edge the original on PS1 has over the arcade version is the ability to unlock and play as the bosses like Armor King and Heihachi. As I stated in my list of my 100 favorite games of all time on Vocal, Tekken Tag Tournament 2 ranks at number 3. Its combat flow is just about perfect, with timing windows that are tight and lots of variations with the combos to keep opponents guessing. On top of that, the variety of modes is huge, even without including the online play. Now, it may seem unfair to compare the original Tekken to one of the installments on 7th gen hardware. And you know what? It is. Here's Tekken 3, which is on the same console as the original. Leaving aside the slew of characters and bonus modes, which even includes some kind of full contact volleyball, seriously, the combat mechanics had evolved to flow better and the speed increased. There's a reason this is the only Tekken game that's on the PlayStation Classic, for the few of you who still care about the PlayStation Classic. Even within the 5th console generation, the original Tekken was a dinosaur. In short, the original Tekken has not aged well. Its visuals and sound are still satisfactory by mid-90s standards, but the gameplay is just too sluggish to enjoy. It's easier to return to Street Fighter 2, the original, not the turbo version, than the original Tekken. Hell, even the original Street Fighter from the 80s was easier to return to than the original Tekken, and that game had only Ryu and Ken as playable characters. Now don't get me wrong, the original Tekken will always have a place in my heart. It introduced me to a franchise that would be one of my all-time favorites. However, there's no denying that it is a relic. While it is still an interesting curiosity, it really is not worth playing today. This is one old champ that really shouldn't come out of retirement for another fight. So what do you think? Am I off base here? Are there other long-running series for which I should return to the beginning? Please comment down below, and feel free to give a like and subscribe if you want to. I would like to do more of these when I'm not doing Saturday Night Sports. I'm Adam of FoolBoyMedia, and this has been Flashback. Take care.